Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. I don't know about you, but that music, I love a good calypso and soca music, and it just gets me going in the morning. So, welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and CEO of Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as the Blended Pledge and the Blended podcast as well. And today we have a great show for you. We've got Jason Murray from Shipium joining us today, and we're going to be talking about so many topics, that you need to know in your business today, from diesel costs. We've also got fragmented tech stacks that we're going to be talking about, especially when it comes to parcel. And we're going to be talking about a $10 billion deal. But before we get to any of that, we do need to give a shout out to our show sponsor, the Secret Society of Supply Chain. That is our free membership group. And we've got a lot of great conversations that are happening in there. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. And of course, we want to give a shout out to all of our newest members. We've got Rebecca, Daniel, Hamza, Prakash, Kathleen, Christine, Maria, Erwin, Tony, Susheth, Elena, Francisco, Caesar, Anish, Ayan, Rahul, Rebecca, and Michael Van Koolen. We're so excited to see you there in Secret Society of Supply Chain. Now, if you are watching, we want to know where you're tuning in from. So make sure to put that in the comments. And plus, if you love the conversation today, we love a good fire emoji here at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So make sure to put that in the comments as well. So what's new at Let's Talk Supply Chain? Well, you all know that back in March, we launched an AI interactive podcast experience. Now you can find that over on letstalksupplychain.com. This is our newest episode with Four Kites, and I'm talking to Jimmy about discovering the blueprint for your autonomous supply chain. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have to go and check out the episode. It's episode 550, wherever you listen or watch the show. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere. Plus, you can also go to letstalksupplychain.com. You can click that button for executive summary. You can get main points with timestamps. You can even ask the episode a question. So head over there and check that out. What else do we have going on? Oh, we have, let me just see here. We have, I don't know if you checked this out last week, but we had a brand new show called Digital Lab. And that's right, DC Sfrigola is back with Let's Talk Supply Chain, and she is hosting this particular show. And we are testing tools for you so you don't have to. So this particular episode, and I highly recommend you go and check it out. We're going to put the link in the comments so you can go and check it out. This first episode really dives into a conversation about what the company does. And then we also did a micro demo just for you so you know what's out there and what you're looking for. So go check that out. Oh, I had it twice. Never mind. Then where are we going to be? Well, in person, we're going to be in Chicago, September 16th through 17th at the Logistics M&A Club. I'm going to be on stage moderating a panel and telling a little bit about my story growing up in a family business. So I can't wait to do that. Then, of course, we've got Manifest in Vegas. Now that's happening February 8th through 10th. And that's at the Venetian. That is obviously 2027. So we've got a ways to go. But right now, they've got early bird tickets that you are not going to want to miss. So head over there, check that out. What else have we got? I've got a brand new monthly pop. This is my LinkedIn newsletter, and I'm talking about connecting the dots, 4 founder lessons that shaped my journey. We had a lot of great feedback on this. The link will be in the comments. Go and check that out as well. And then, of course, we have launched Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia. We already have our first episode out, and we are promoting the second episode. We're not going to tell you who it is just yet, but you're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you're following this page so that you get to see the latest and greatest for Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia. And then, of course, Let's Talk Supply Chain is expanding into Europe in September. Now, you're going to want to follow this page as well, because we are going to be talking about everything that's happening in that region. We're going to be letting you know who is in that region, what is happening, what new tech innovations are happening in Europe as well. So go ahead and follow that page. All right, well, now it's time to bring up our guest, but we've got to throw it over to Camille for the introduction. So over to you, Camille.
Most shipping systems were built to answer one question. Did the shipment go out? That was the right question until it wasn't. Today's guest saw that shift happening from the inside, and he didn't wait for someone else to fix it. Jason Murray joined Amazon in 1999 as a software engineer. He wanted to be at a startup. Amazon was close enough. For his first 10 years, he lived inside the fulfillment centers, picking, packing, sorting. He learned how things actually move. In 2010, he took over supply chain. Prime was starting to take off. His job? Make two-day delivery a viable business.
He didn't just support Prime. He rebuilt the infrastructure that made it possible at scale.
18 years, VP of Retail Systems, VP of Forecasting and Supply Chain. He left in 2018 and built Shipium. His belief, more carriers isn't the edge. More data isn't either. The edge goes to whoever can reason over it in real time. Jason, thanks for joining us on Thoughts and Coffee. Welcome.
Hi, Jason. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. How was that for an introduction?
That was crazy. I think the parts of me walking around the background, they kind of like unintentionally captured my awkwardness. So I don't know if that was like an AI thing or just, an AI thing, or they're really picking up on the subtle, me doping around in some of these meetings or whatever. So pretty funny.
Oh,
but great. You got to keep it fresh. I love it. So
we dive deep to make sure that we get that as right as possible. So welcome to the show. Now, we got to learn a little bit more about you through Camille, but talk to us a little bit. Give us an introduction into Shipium, just so we know, who you are and what you do. You have been on the show, so I do highly recommend everybody go to letstalksupplychain.com, search for our episodes on Shipium as well. But for anybody who hasn't done that yet, give us the intro.
Yeah, so I was at Amazon a long time, built a supply chain tech stack there, and really, Shipium was really trying to kind of democratize that tech stack for the rest of the market. And I'd say the first iteration of Shipium, we really focused a lot on the transactional pieces of both delivery promise, order routing, and kind of the transportation lane optimization at the back end, which carrier, which method, et cetera. Obviously, heavily built on top of data science. We have a digital twin. We kind of bring that all together into a platform, which of course that really has enabled the next phase of Shipium, which is really we're basically using this new form of AI to do things like strategic planning, and now we're moving into freight audit and pay later this year, right? And so that's been an interesting journey, and that's because I think these human functions that were traditionally considered something you would outsource to a firm, right? Or you had a large group of humans. The newer form of AI has been a great bump up at how to do this stuff. And so we're really excited. I mean, personally, I'm excited because at Amazon, I got to kind of use the machine learning version of AI back in the 2010s, right, to kind of build out Amazon supply chain. And now we're getting this new version of AI, the generative stuff. And it's just been fantastic figuring out where you can kind of apply it in the space. I think everyone is honestly just, it works for some things better, some things not so much, or it's small improvements, and other things it's just absolutely fantastic. So we're kind of experimenting like everyone else, but we've really landed on a couple focus areas, and the interest has just been off the charts. So it's great.
Love that. Well, if you want to know more about Shipium, go to that QR code in the top right-hand corner, and you can connect directly to them. All right, let's get to our poll of the week. So we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning across the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. Now, this question, we got 114 votes. What's the number one reason supply chain teams hang on to legacy shipping systems longer than they should? And we're going to be talking about this in depth today, so you're going to want to stay and hang out with us and learn a little bit more. 46% said still works. Why change? That is a problem, and you're going to learn why. 23% no time to migrate. 20% fear of downtime. Kind of similar, those two. 11% too much custom code. Jason, what do you think about this?
I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? And it's like your biggest kind of battle is entropy, right? And I understand organizations have lots of things to prioritize.
Yeah.
I think it got frankly kind of worse with this new influx of AI things. Has made it even more confusing. The newer tools and how do you even apply like something like a Claude or OpenAI to your organization? We fight with this a lot. I think it's kind of our job to think about where is the value, because I think, and then how do we make it easy, and then where is the value, right? And
Right.
I think in a lot of cases, there's the cost of just sitting on what you have is actually quite a bit, is not justifying the cost of kind of what it would take to actually rip this thing out and start changing and modernizing your stack, right? But I think it becomes so overwhelming that decision doesn't really come to light and be truly traded off between what am I going to get versus what do I have to give, right? And I think we've been pushing really hard on different ways to make this process easier. Which some of the new generative AI coding stuff has been great for that, but also just really being clear about where our value is. I talked about our new strategic planning, kind of strategic offering in the space where we're using AI to run lots and lots of simulations to kind of demonstrate what kind of value you would see if you flipped over to some of our more infrastructure-based systems. And in most cases, it's almost always justified. Like we shoot for a 10-to-1 in terms of what do we charge versus what do you actually get back out of it, which is an easy math to say like there's a payoff there and you should make the change. But I understand everyone is struggling with like how do you actually move through and make these changes to your systems, because some of these systems have been there a long time, like a long time. So.
Yeah. Well, and I go back to still works, why change? And I really want to empower that 43% or 46% to say, go and have some conversations internally,
right,
and ask some of the questions to see if it's actually still working and how much time is it taking people to do things. Jonathan made a comment saying the real cost of legacy isn't the system itself, it's everything built around it to keep it running. And he's saying the barrier to change has never been lower. And so I just want to make sure that we're pushing that conversation a little bit further, because we in our seat might think that it's working, but have a look around, see what's actually having to go into it to keep it running and what that looks like. I think that was such a key point. Now,
you also have to be careful you really want to be careful to not kind of do what's easy versus what's really valuable, right? And I think that is the problem with entropy, is you can get into that trap. So I love that. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, well, and Maureen also said, I think part of the reason is human nature, which is what you just talked about, right? We're wired to prefer the familiar. So even when a new solution promises a better ROI, the first response is often resistance rather than curiosity. And that's what we're talking about, is I think more and more as professionals and leaders, we need to have a little bit more curiosity going into conversations and really understanding what's out there.
Awesome.
So before we get to our first article, I usually ask you for a market update. What's happening in your world? What's keeping everybody up at night? What are they talking about?
I think we're going to touch on a lot of it in the articles, right? But the deal is that there's just still a lot of uncertainty, and that's been the theme for several years, right? You have both the fuel costs. We'll talk about that. The war, right? The kind of what does AI mean to my business? And so we kind of feel that acutely, because I think when people are unsure, right, they're not wanting to make transformations, right? It does lead into the last point, which is you kind of have this tendency to like hunker down, right? And so I think as we'll get into it's kind of becoming the new normal. The abnormal is the new normal, but I think that's what we see a lot of, right? I think and then on the flip side, the more optimistic side, I think I was talking about, I think the new generative AI stuff is just opening lots and lots of doors in terms of both understanding what existing systems can and do and what they should do, and then also just in terms of tools or processes that were traditionally human focused now have opened up that someone could do this with an autonomous system, right? And so we're obviously, from an optimistic standpoint, we're really excited to be able to take on drudgery that was not possible just 3 years ago. So really exciting.
I think one of the things that are standing out to me in conversations is that it's moving a lot quicker than anybody else can really keep up with. I was
For sure.
talking to one marketing team, and I think they said they're up to 84 agents that they've been able to build just for marketing. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy smokes,
Yeah.
84. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what number I'm on. But anyways, let's get to our first article. So this article is about one of those disruptions that you've been talking about around the war and obviously the diesel prices going up. Now, I wanted to bring this into perspective for you because right now diesel is costing $5.60. A year ago in May 2025, it was at $2.06. Now, this is a very, 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 very large increase. And if we think about the speed of this increase, a lot of this has happened over the last 2 months, and it's broken financial safeguards used by freight carriers. Now, this is a problem because if they don't adjust their fuel surcharges to you, then they are having to absorb the costs on this. And with margins as small as they are, this becomes a bit of a problem. Jason, what did you think of this particular article?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'll just keep saying it anyway. I'm just going to keep pounding it into the ground. No, I think just the bottom line is we don't know. There's so much uncertainty. Things are going to be constantly changing, and you can either try to predict what happens or you can build a system that reacts to it quickly, right? And that's that is frankly your two choices. And we are obviously very keyed in on building a system that is going to help you react to this in as fast as possible. And I think that's really going to be the key because I don't think if you ask me what is going to be going on for a year from now, I have literally no idea, right? And that is the new normal, and that's been the new normal for it's been kind of ramping up the last 5-6 years, right? And we don't expect that to change. And so all you can really do is if fuel charges go up, how do you take full advantage of all the arbitrage opportunities that are going to be there? Look at possibly changing your policies. All of those things need to happen. But if that is a 6-month project, by the time you're done with that, the next thing will have happened and you're already behind on that one, right? So you've got to have systems and processes in place that react quickly. And I kind of keep emphasizing that, but that's the story.
Yeah, well, and you're leaving money on the table. So let's just put this into perspective. A lot of freight carriers recalculate their fuel surcharges monthly or quarterly. The largest increase happened in the last 2 months. And so what we're seeing is carriers left with $168,000 to $400,000 in additional fuel or diesel costs that they weren't able to pass along to their customers. And that's a big hit to the bottom line. So you're right. If you don't have the tools in place to be able to help you recalculate like this so that you can recover those costs, that could mean the difference of being in business and not being in business. So on that note, we are going to go to our news desk because we want to find out the top news stories of the week. So Diane and Julian, take it away.
3 stories today. A trade deal, freight tightening across every mode, and cargo thieves targeting AI infrastructure.
Let's get into it.
The European Parliament ratified a trade deal with the U.S. U.S. duties on European products are now capped at 15%.
That cap replaces a threatened 25% hike on European vehicles and machinery.
U.S. steel and aluminum duties need to come down by end of 2026, or the EU can suspend concessions.
If you built dual sourcing workarounds to hedge Atlantic tariff exposure, revisit them. Consolidation may now cost less than the workaround you built.
This deal isn't unconditional. Track steel and aluminum developments through Q4 before locking long-term sourcing commitments.
Next, truckload is tightening fast. Spot rates are closing in on the COVID-era peak of $3.72 per mile. Tender rejections are at 17% nationally.
Domestic intermodal is up 10% year over year. International containers on rail are up 14%. Shippers are shifting freight off trucks and onto rail.
Late June into early July is one of the tightest windows of the year. Month end, quarter end, and July 4 are all hitting at once.
Union Pacific hit low-volume intermodal shippers with a $500 surcharge out of Southern California, June 21.
Last one. And it is a different kind of risk. 8 people were federally indicted for cargo theft across Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Jersey.
Nearly $5 million in losses. The method, carrier impersonation and fraudulent paperwork.
The target, copper, processors, networking equipment, and memory modules. S&P Global projects AI and data center copper demand will more than double by 2040.
As that value density rises, criminal networks are adapting. Most shippers' security protocols are not keeping pace.
On high-value AI infrastructure freight, carrier verification alone isn't enough.
Yeah.
Authenticated pickups and stronger identity checks are worth reviewing now.
Trade stability on Atlantic lanes, a freight market hitting a hard crunch, and criminals already ahead of the security curve.
Sarah, back to you.
That was great. Now, a couple of things that stood out for me on that one was they talked about I think they said fragmented tech stacks are the primary cost driver. And we're actually going to talk about that in the next article. Did anything stand out for you on that one?
That guy was fired up about tender rejections.
Yes.
It went hard.
He was. Listen, we got to make supply chain sexy, okay? Like, we got to have passion about this stuff.
Yeah, but they did that like thing on his face, like the zoom in. That was pretty a good effect. So
all right, let's get to our second article. Now, this one comes straight from Gartner, and this one talks about fragmented tech stacks, because they're talking about how TMS and ERP, and I go back to the poll saying that 43% said it still works. Why change? This is the article for you, and this goes into a lot of in-depth findings around this, but a lot of TMS, a lot of ERP do not have parcel capabilities. And let me point out two key points on this one. By 2031, global parcel delivery volumes are going to increase by, they said a third, I put 30%. We're going to be in that range. And by 2030, retailers are going to spend 2 times more on returns. Returns is making a comeback, and retailers and companies are looking
very good
to focus on that. So, Jason, talk to us about this article. Shipium is mentioned in this article as a parcel solution product. Talk to us about this fragmented tech stack, where we are today. I mean, the poll says it all. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is kind of how do you cut things up, right? And I think there's been the way that the world has been cut up for several years. Shipium as a company, we have this opinion that was heavily influenced by how we did things at Amazon, that we're trying to create effectively this cross-cutting layer that really removes the parcel stuff out of another tech stack and lets us focus on expertise in that area, from effectively promise all the way to payment now, right? Which is just thinking of that as this transaction that exists from all the way from you need to kind of understand what your parcel network is doing to tell someone when they're going to receive it, right? And you obviously need to understand your parcel network in the middle to understand how to execute it, right? And then you also need to understand the details of your parcel contracts if you're going to actually make sure that you're getting charged the same amount, right? I mean, the correct amount, I should say. And so I think inherently there's not going to be one system that does everything, so you have to decide what axes are you going to optimize for. And we have an opinion on that. We believe there is this kind of like transportation layer that needs to exist, and that's kind of at the core of what we're trying to do with Shipium. But I think the flip side of that is, if you have too many systems that cannot talk to each other, then that also creates a bunch of problems, right? I think the hope is that this is going to all become very clear as LLMs start driving a lot of these processes also. And that's why we've really tried to kind of focus ourselves as more and more as an infrastructure company, right? That we want to just be the best in the world at understanding all stages of a shipping transaction that are required to just nail that, right? And then that can ultimately be used to, if you want, feed your system above, right? But I think the article is effectively saying that there's just too many details in this to try to pull it up to a system that doesn't have expertise in this, right? And that's just saying that if I'm a website and I want to tell you when your package is going to arrive, you really do need to understand things like, what are the cutoff times in your fulfillment centers? What days do you operate? What networks are, what carriers are you using? What's the cost structure associated with each shipping method, right? All that stuff needs to be understood if you're going to actually be able to give an accurate delivery promise, right? On the execution side, it's kind of the same thing. If you actually want to choose the carrier, you need to understand the accessorials down to the zip patterns, right? If you're going to have an accurate understanding of what is this going to actually cost me or not, right? And so My point is that they're advocating. There's so much detail in how parcel networks run. They're becoming more complicated and growing. We see that with new entrants. It's no longer really a duopoly. That's becoming less and less of a thing. And so the you put that all together and you say, like, you need something that can really kind of manage that expertise end to end, right? Which obviously we're a big fan of, because it's the core hypothesis of the company.
Yeah. Well, and I think the 2030 spending 2 times more on returns. I mean, I think 2030 is a little bit too far. I think retailers are starting to think about, what does return means to our bottom line? How do we manage this properly? If we have the
My
right
daughters
tools
seem
in
to have
place-
thought that was happening now, so they were more like 4 times the return. So I'm not sure they didn't get the memo that it was waiting till 2030. So
I think a lot of them are, maybe it's that they're all thinking about it now, but really the solve is going to come by 2030. I don't know.
I think returns are tough. They're hard. I mean, the definitely, because they don't. I think the whole thing, the just buy multiples and try them on, especially in kind of the clothing space, no one has been able to really solve around that yet, right? There's some things you can do, and I spent some time at Amazon working on those things, and I'm sure they've gotten significantly better in later years. But the point is, you can only do so much. People, if you offer free returns, people are going to do this kind of buy multiple things and then ship stuff back, right? And so at some point, the retailers are going to have to just acknowledge probably that this is inevitable, and figure out how to structurally solve it, right?
Yeah. And I mean, 2 years ago, I had bought a pair of pants from a retailer. They sat on my floor for 8 weeks because they couldn't figure out that. They told me that the return was just going to take that long. They couldn't get me a return label. And every time I saw it on my floor, and of course it was in a box, I didn't just like throw it on the floor, but every time I looked at it on the floor, I thought,
speak for yourself. Mine are just on the floor, but
I was like, how much money is sitting on my kitchen floor, my floor right now? And it was just driving me absolutely mental. All right. We've got a couple of minutes left. I want to get to our last article because this is fairly interesting. And we're talking about how USPS and DHL have partnered in a $10 billion last mile delivery arrangement. What does this do for Parcel Solutions? Jason, talk to us.
I mean, it's hard to, I think that USPS has always in the United States offered this unique delivery format for certain types of items that is just so incredibly effective, because they're going to basically every location in the country every day anyway, right? And so the cost of that has already practically been absorbed. There's obviously some inbound and other things that go into it, but because that's kind of already kind of absorbed into the system, right? Adding incremental things gives them a massive cost structure advantage over other providers, right? And so I don't honestly understand, I don't have any inside baseball on kind of, did DHL overpay or did USPS charge too much, et cetera. but can you create a low cost delivery network without USPS if you're shipping a lot of like less than a pound type items? It's really hard, right? They are so good at bringing that structure down, and that's why there's an Amazon equivalent of this. DHL, I think UPS is now back together. The breakup is over, and they're back together with USPS. So it's all inevitable, because you can't beat that cost structure. Those trucks are going out delivering people's mail. If you're like me, mail went down for a little while and now it's up higher than ever. So we get lots of mail, and then there's a bunch of packages in there, right? And being able to kind of amortize that cost across multiple suppliers there's this huge advantage, because they're going to every site every day anyway. And so it makes total sense to me structurally. I don't know on the specifics of the deal, but you just can't create your own network that replicates that at that cost structure easily, right?
Well, and to put
it's 250 years old, for God's sakes.
Well, and to put that into perspective, it's 170 million locations in 6 days is what USPS actually says in that article that they service, which is a lot. And you're right. I mean, if they're already going there. Anyways, we're already over time, but I highly recommend that you go and check out the comments in that particular article because the comments are really kind of funny.
They go hard.
The QR
They're as
code
mad as that guy was about the the tariff stuff. So the AI guy was. So they were fired up.
They are fired up and very passionate. Yeah. All right, the QR code in the right-hand corner, that takes you directly to Shipium. Go and grab that. I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning, and then we're also going to be back next week. Jason, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It's great. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.